We are Rogue Media Sports.
It's the Cam Show, Rogue Media Sports Network. We need some sort of theme song, Zach, where you and I get around the piano.
Can you play piano?
No.
Okay.
It's 2024. Dude.
I mean, we can find somebody, but you made it sound like it was going to be the two of us. Like,
I'll bet Mike can play a little piano.
I don't know if he. I'll text him. We'll find out real quick.
Pete might have done some lessons at some point. You know, a little Catholic school thing. They were probably like, we want him to be high society. Let's have him learn some piano or gymnastics or something.
Pete says Pete seems like he would be like a guy that you would find in, like, hear me out. Like, you went to like a frontier town, like village for some reason, and they had a reenactment going on.
Yeah.
And he's the guy with like a bowler hat on and like a striped, like, up and down, what is, I guess, more like a vertical. And he sat there, and when you came in, he's like, "Hey guys," and he would just play tunes at the piano,
like a straw
while
hat
you ordered
on
like
or something.
Maybe I was thinking more a bullet while you order like sassafras from the fake, bar there. He seems like he would play.
Honestly, of all the times I've been faced with that situation, they mostly do look
two
like
times.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it was twice.
A lot.
Oh.
I run into that situation a lot.
We should. That being said, we should be put together something, the two of us, for a theme song.
Why not?
Yeah.
We absolutely nailed the All in the Family theme song while getting prepared for the show today. I think we should work that out. Also, we talked about shows we just don't like.
Yeah.
You said Full House.
Yeah, I never liked Full House, even as
that's fine. I don't have anything for or against Full House. I would have watched it when I was very young, so I don't. Did I tell you? I ever told you the story about friend of the show, my dad, and his exposure to Full House?
The Bulldozer, no,
and mainly Candace Cameron. You know her as DJ Tanner.
Yeah.
So one time, this is a couple years ago. I was probably still out of college, but a couple years ago, my dad texted me because when I started going to college, he started working from home, and so he would like watch. Anyway, I'll get to it. But he worked from home, and so he never was a big TV guy. But now he watches a little bit more because he works from home.
Yeah. And
so he texts me and he goes, "Is Candace Cameron married to Pavel Bure?" I was like, this is one of the most random texts I've ever gotten. But even more sicko of me, I had to say, no, she is married to Pavel Bure's brother, Valerie Bure, who also played in the NHL.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, got it. And I just like had to know, like my curiosity was knocking me down. Like, why? This is like 2020. Why am I getting a text from my dad of all people about Candace Cameron? But I remember my sister Lisa is 8 years older than me, and she's my half sister. So at one point she would have been Bill's stepdaughter.
Yeah.
And so she was born in '89, like right in the wheelhouse.
Oh, she's a year younger than me.
Full House and Full House reruns, Nick at Night type stuff. And so I texted him and I was like, "Oh, did Lisa used to watch like Full House? Did you watch Full House with Lisa?" And he was like, "Don't know what Full House is, but Candace Cameron is whatever the Dakota something attorney at law, or she's on some like Lifetime show. I think she's a detective." And Bill watches it during the daytime because he'll like take his lunch break, go upstairs from his office and watch TV. And so he'll watch daytime Lifetime shows, and that's how he knows Candace Cameron.
That is.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me, dude. Like, say what you will, she was one of the most popular stars of the early 90s just for being on this massive show. My sister is a product of the early 90s, and she's probably seen every episode of Full House. And my dad's just like, I don't know what that is, but she is. Are you pulling it up? Do you know what the name of her character is?
I'm trying to find out.
I totally butchered it. But.
Well, she's been in she's been the main role in 18 films that are like mysteries. They're called the Aurora Teagarden Mysteries.
That's
and
definitely
she plays
it.
Aurora
That's
Teagarden.
It.
So it's
Aurora
18,
Teagarden
18
for sure.
movies where she's played than Aurora Teagarden.
He's probably seen all of them. I should have asked him that when we had him on the show. That was so good. And so there was actually a time when I was a news reporter and Candace Cameron wrote some like children's books and she was doing a signing here in Waco. And I tried like hell to be able to cover that event so that I could get one of these children's books signed by her to send to my 60-year-old dad who knows her as Aurora Teagarden, not DJ Tana. Oh, it's so good, man.
Oh, that's too funny.
So that's how he knows Candace Cameron, which I think is hilarious. Hilarious. If he, like, I just think back to that, like, when they told my siblings that was going to be, my name was going to be Cameron, I'll bet that's the first thing my sister thought of was Candace Cameron from Full House. I didn't even know what it was.
That's funny. And he's like,
25 years later, he's texted me about it.
He's married to Aurora Teagarden. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, I don't know what was worse, that he knew Candace Cameron for Aurora Teagarden or that I knew right off the bat that no, Candace Cameron Bure is not married to the Hall of Famer Pavel Bure, but rather his brother.
That's funny.
Oh, it's a classic Bill story. Classic. Bill and I usually text during the Patriots games every week. That's my segue. Big Patriots story yesterday that comes as a surprise to nobody, but is now trying to be played down, and the Patriots themselves gets their hands involved in this. So obviously the whole talk around the team has been the quarterback situation. Like, we know the rest of the team sucks, but when you draft a quarterback in the top 5, everyone wants that kid to play. And I'm not even just saying fans. I'm sure there are people in that building, players, coaches, front office, probably some from all 3 phases that are saying, man, why don't we just give this Drake Maye kid a try? Like, we're going to suck. We're going to lose anyway. Let's see what the kid's got and develop him so that next year, maybe we are ready to go a little bit better. So that has obviously been it all every week. We've done a May watch, so to speak, or Drake Maye radar, a Maydar, if you will, to see when is this the right week? Is this the situation that you can send him out in? And it got to the point where yesterday, Evan Lazar of Patriots.com, he's like a team reporter, was on this show. It's Catch 22, Catch All 22, whatever they call it, with him and Alex Barth. And he had an interesting way to put how these players are feeling about the fact that Drake Maye is not playing. Zach, could we go to the clip on what Evan Lazar had to say about what's going on in this locker room?
Right now, they're teetering on mutiny in that locker room. And I don't want to be alarmist or like what's the word? I don't want to
hyperbolic.
speak. Yeah, hyperbolic. Thank you. I don't. But I was in that locker room after the game on Sunday. The defense is mad at the defense. The offense is mad at the offense. You have young receivers who are literally throwing tantrums on film, and Pop Douglas and Jalen Polk, and good on Pop Douglas for owning that this week and walking, kind of saying that he's got to be better and all that kind of stuff. But I said this before and I'll say it again. You're at the point now with 52 other guys in that locker room that all watch these 2 quarterbacks practice every single day, that all know that they drafted Drake Maye 3rd overall. And at what point in time does some of these guys say to themselves, why am I going out there and getting my butt kicked every single Sunday and Drake can't? Like, why am I going out there with a quarterback who can't get me the football when we have the Ferrari back in the garage that can't get me the football, but I'm Jalen Polk. I'm supposed to go run every single route as hard as I can, and I'm supposed to, lay it all out on there.
Full on mutiny. That's what he said. This is a guy who's around the locker room a lot, and he went on there on the Patriots website and says there's a mutiny in this locker room because the players don't feel like they're playing the right guy at quarterback. Whoa. By the way, the Patriots responded to that right away and dumped the audio, cut the audio out. The Patriots organization went in there and deleted this. It was Evan Lazar erasure. They tried to make sure that narrative was not thrown out there. It's too late because look, that's all we're following Patriots.com for at this point is to hear some stuff about Drake Maye, right? I mean, that's all that we're going for. And so that was just like completely scrubbed within hours, not even hours, probably an hour. The Patriots went in there and scrubbed that. Can't find that on their website, on their feed anymore. And so it got to the point where last night, Evan Lazar has to go on 98.5 with Joe Murray and talk about, Jim Murray, right? That's what it says on there. Goes in there and has to like walk this all back. So here is Evan Lazar backing the truck up.
Today, you had some comments on your podcast. Would you like to rephrase them here on the show?
Yeah, look, Barth pretty well as I do, and him and I can get into some pretty heated debates and arguments over things, even off the air sometimes, as we tend to do. And I'll fully admit I got a little carried away today on the podcast, and I'm sure you've been there, Joe, yourself, just in the heat of the moment. But the word I use, mutiny, like there's no mutiny in the Patriots locker room. And like I said, I got carried away, and that was my bad. That's not what was going on. But I just think the biggest thing that I worry about, and this is just me personally, my opinion, is how long the rest of the players in the locker room are going to sit there and take their lumps while Drake Maye waits in the wings and waits for his turn. So that was just my opinion, and it kind of came out a little stronger than I intended it to.
Well,
Several hours after he says it, suddenly there's not a mutiny. Such is the life of a team reporter writing for the team website. I kind of feel for Evan a little bit because he put that out there, I think fully believing that there is something of a mutiny in the Patriots locker room. He says he got carried away, but that's what happens when the boss is knocking on your door and saying, we've dumped this. You need to go on 98.5 and apologize with Joe Murray. And I love it. The first thing he does is say, working with Alex Barth, who could control themselves, as if like it's like going on with Howard Stern in 96 or something. Like I can't control what I'm saying. Barth. Who doesn't know Alex Barth? And then says, yeah, I got carried away. You probably do that too, Joe. Like he's just take ownership of it. I know you don't want to, but your team is making you go out there and take ownership of it. So it makes me wonder, is Evan Lazar right in his first stance that there is a mutiny in the Patriots locker room? Is Evan Lazar right about some serious dissension in the Patriots locker room? Wouldn't surprise me. How could there not be? We heard after they won week 1 that this is so good for this team, for this group of guys, because they think they are a good football team and nobody around them thinks they're a good football team. And this is them proving everybody wrong. They know they can go out there and win some games. Well, through 4 weeks now, they haven't won since. And now their quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, is a contributing factor to that. So if this team really does think they're better than what people think, of course they want Drake Maye out there. Of course. There are guys playing for their career. It's NFL, not for long, for a reason. And they're on one of the worst teams in the league. They know that some of their careers are teetering on the brink here. And they don't want it to be in the hands of Jacoby Brissett. And there are some guys who are going to be here for a while that are like, why are we stuck in this limbo? Why don't we just enter the future now? So I get that. And by the way, these guys in the locker room are seeing Drake Maye every day, practicing every day, taking more reps than any other backup in the league that we heard from Evan Washburn, taking 30% of the reps. They know what this kid's capable of. And of course, there is still some pause for concern, with the, hey, he hasn't faced the live bullets yet. He's faced vanilla defenses. I get that. But at some point, those players in the locker room are going to say, you know what, though, we've seen his traits. We've seen his arm talent. We've seen his athleticism. We know he can extend plays. At some point, this has to be a better option than what we've got out there right now with Jacoby Brissett. So I believe, Evan, I believe there probably is some sort of a mutiny in that Patriots locker room of, hey, we're sick of watching Brissett out here. We want Drake Maye. And I've kind of gone back and forth. As you can tell, I understand why he hasn't started yet. And as I said earlier this week, I think it's best to use Drake Maye after this game against Miami. I do believe that because I think this is a winnable game, even with Jacoby Brissett in there. And then you go play with house money. But of course, I can understand why the players who are watching him every day and seeing that he's getting more reps than any other backup quarterback they've been around and is probably thriving with how highly they speak of him, that I think they're ready for a change. We're all ready for a change because if you're going to lose anyway, you might as well just see some development, see the seeds being planted for the future of this franchise. Of course, there is a faction of Patriots fans that think, Drake Maye is going to come in and game 2 or 3 he's going to throw for 250 and a couple of touchdowns. I don't think that's going to happen. As I've said on here many times, I don't think the offense is going to look dramatically better, but there are going to be some plays in there. Him with Jalen Polk down the field. He's extending a play, great throw. He's got Jalen Polk, and you're going to say, yeah, that's the future. Or a play where the pocket is collapsing and Drake Maye can hide behind some inept lineman and run for a first down. And you're like, damn, man, that's the future. That's something we don't get with Jacoby Brissett. And then when he does throw for 170 yards, you'll say, wow, that's something we don't get from Jacoby Brissett. So, of course, we all want to see that. And I believe that the players want to see it too. If you polled the players, I'll bet more than half of them would say no disrespect to Jacoby Brissett, but yeah, we want to see Drake Maye play. And I think it's obviously kind of dumb that the Patriots go in there and scrap that audio, but it is the Patriots team website. What do you expect? They're not allowed to put on anything entertaining. They're just supposed to be straight-laced and complimentary of the team. This is not supposed to be sports talk radio going on Patriots.com on the Catch-22. I don't think that's supposed to be happening. But it does become sad when you see that clearly they have knocked on his door. Someone who works for Bob Kraft, by the way. Kraft Sports Entertainment owns that network like they own the team. So you have to be an employee of Robert Kraft to have that job. So someone who is straight from the Kraft family or is their consigliere is coming to Evan Lazar and saying this needs to be scrubbed. And he needs to go on and tell everyone that what he said was wrong and that he got carried away and that he didn't actually mean that. Put him on Joe Murray's show, 98.5, and Joe Murray tees him up there. Like that sounds like a partner of the New England Patriots, which the Sports Hub is, saying, you want to reword this a little bit? Do you want to back this up a little bit? And he goes right in there and falls on the sword, kisses the ring, respects the shield. And again, I can't really hold it much against him. He works for the Patriots. What do you expect? But it is sad. It's a sad situation that now even the team reporters are saying like, yeah, everyone wants Drake Maye to play. And it's such a bad deal that he has to go on and apologize for it and say he was wrong about it. Not just say he was sorry, but that he was flat out wrong about it. An opinion that he had. Oh, interesting stuff. The Jeremy Swayman stuff gets interesting. Face-off NHL gets interesting. Can't wait to talk about that. And also, I am in a waiting room. Okay? We have a big moment towards the end of the show. We'll also have Pete Souza on later in the show. We'll get you prepared for what that moment is. But first, we're talking Jeremy Swayman. We're talking Bruins. And what is going to come out in this Face-Off NHL series that is on Amazon Prime right now. That's coming up next on the Cam Show. Cam Show, Rogue Media Sports Network. I'm going to keep it with Patriots for just a second. We did that with the whole first segment. We're going to talk Bruins here in a minute. But this is a new report from Jason LaCanfora, who I believe was NFL Network. Anyway, he says the Patriots have, quote, let it be known, end quote, to executives around the league that third-year wide receiver Tyquan Thornton is available for trade. What are you going to get for Tyquan Thornton? I mean, you are going to get next to nothing, man. You might have to package Evan Lazar in the deal just to get anything. That's rich. We're going to trade Tyquan Thornton. Maybe you can get a 6th or a 7th for him. It's a guy you traded up to get in the second round. You traded up to get Tyquan Thornton. What a miss. What an absolute miss. Patriots second round wide receivers clockwork. Never, ever, ever works. Anyway, best of luck. I was a huge Tyquan fan when he came in. Obviously, I watched him play about every snap he played in college. And I thought he was going to be a good pro. And I'm not going to lie to you, Zach. The moment I realized he might not be was when he was a wide receiver drafted in the second round by Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. I was like, shit, okay. Now he's Bethel Johnson. All right, here we go. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. Actually, no, Bethel Johnson was better. Bethel Johnson caught a touchdown in the playoffs. Man, people forget that. The A&M great. So, yeah, with Kendrick Bourne coming back, that makes a lot of sense. We knew that someone was going to have to go once Bourne came off the IR. Tyquan Thornton is more of a theory than he is a physical football player at this point. So that makes a ton of sense that he's gone. He survived because Juju Smith-Schuster was so awful that he survived all of camp. His days are numbered now. But the big story around Boston sports, like we talked about at length yesterday, is Jeremy Swayman. Yes, in the middle of football season, in the middle of MLB playoffs, the biggest story around Boston sports is whether the Bruins goalie will re-sign. And it's not looking great. Obviously, the drama we have been over. Cam Neely with the 64 million reasons why, and Swayman has talked about it publicly quite a few times, including most notably last month when he went on that whole rant of knowing what he's worth and whatever. And I'm starting to get a whiff of Aaron Rodgers. I'm starting to get a whiff of Kyrie Irving with this Jeremy Swayman thing. Like, because you can't convince me. I know the Bruins have a winning culture and great core guys, and they're all professionals, and they know that this is part of the game. But you can't tell me that they're not pissed off with him right now. Because he's still on and on about arbitration last year, which Matt Berry, the Bruins Benders podcast, pointed out. Swayman took them to arbitration. Like that's part of the game. Like it sucks, sure, but everyone goes through it. Everyone hears what they have to say about you. Like, can you get some thicker skin than that? I know it's different from the normal job, but that's why, you're playing in the NHL. And all those guys in there have gone through some sort of arbitration, almost all of them, right? And it made me think of this story once. This one story that my ex-girlfriend told. I promise it's not bad. But she was complaining that someone in one of her classes, I think, just got to leave class every once in a while because the girl had bad period cramps. And my ex-girlfriend was like, we all have bad period cramps. Like, it's literally something we all as women go through. And I got to imagine that's what the Bruins locker room feels like in terms of, look, we've all been there with arbitration, man. They say some shitty things about you. You work out a deal. You move on. They probably don't really feel that way about you. They do want to sign you. That's why they're going along with this song and dance. And so I gotta imagine there's guys in that locker room saying, "Grow up, grow up, dude." Like it's part of the profession. And one of the trade-offs is you do get paid millions of dollars to play the game you've been playing your whole life at the highest level. Like that is kind of one of the trade-offs here. And again, Swayman took them to arbitration. So yeah, I'm getting a lot of Aaron Rodgers, Kyrie Irving, woe is me. I'm just different from so many of these guys. I know my worth. There is like an air of superiority a little bit. And that he's taking it upon himself to set the market. And there is something to be said for that. But like most of these guys are out here playing because they love the game and they want to win the Stanley Cup. And they want to make a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. Pasternak's out there making a lot of money. McAvoy's out there making a lot of money. I'm not saying don't play for free. But when you've got a team that's ready to compete for the Stanley Cup and your big worry is setting the market for your fellow goalie, that's not the right priority to me as the fan. Anyway, and like Igor Shesterkin's going to do that. Igor Shesterkin's maybe the best goalie in the league. Plays for a big market team. He's going to go reset the market. You don't have to. I mean, this would not be unlike the Brandon Ayuk situation before the NFL season. If Brandon Ayuk was saying, like, I've got to reset the market for my fellow wide receiver. No, CeeDee Lamb needs to do that. Justin Jefferson needs to do that. You need to find yourself a good deal, sure, but prove why you should be a guy that needs to set the market. And again, that's what it comes down to. Jeremy Swayman has not proved that he is the guy that should be setting the market for the goalies. I really like him. I think he's going to be a good player in this league for a long time, and I hope it's for the Bruins. But one playoff series, not a full season, an all-star game. We're not talking about Shesterkin. We're not talking about Hellebuck. We're not talking about Bobrovsky or Vasilevsky. We're not talking about those guys. We're talking about a little bit off the pace of UC Saros, who also doesn't win much in the playoffs. You know, that's the kind of player we're talking about here, and that's the one we're worried about setting the market rather than just playing for a team that can compete for the Stanley Cup. That's what bugs me about all this the whole time. And we're going to learn more about it tonight. Tonight, Face Off NHL premieres. It's available right now on Amazon Prime. And I stupidly was like, I don't think the Swayman episode is going to be up tomorrow. They're all up today. They're all up. Oh, what a day, Zach. What a day to not have to do high school football tonight. Yes. That couldn't have worked out any better. My high school football team's bye week coming on the same day that Face Off NHL comes out. I am going to go home tonight. I am going to order fast food. I am going to take an edible, and I am just going to get wicked high and watch like more than half of this. What's there, like 8 episodes or something? I bet I'll just crush 4 easy tonight, and another couple before I get into college football tomorrow. Oh man, I cannot wait. I'm also I'm keeping tabs on this, Zach. I got to enter the queue for Oasis tickets here. That's what is coming up at the end of the show. I'm sure we'll talk to Pete about it. But right now, the Bruins, they start the season on Tuesday. And Zach's all into the Bruins now because of his feed. He's got all kinds of Bruins shit coming up. He knew exactly who Jonas Korpisalo was. When I was talking about it this morning, this young man from Riesel, Texas, knew exactly who Jonas Korpisalo was. Because I did want to talk about Korpisalo a little bit, because he's your opening night starting goalie. And I went into this offseason thinking, you know, the Panthers are in for a weird offseason. They gotta say goodbye to some guys. They gotta get some guys off the books, which they did. And the Bruins have some cap space. They can go, spend a little bit, have a team that's better than last year. Probably not a cup team, but better than last year, and therefore one that can compete with the Florida Panthers. Instead, what we'll have on Tuesday is the Panthers unveiling the banner for the Stanley Cup win, and the Bruins will have Jonas Korpisalo in goal. Not the way we expected this to go. And obviously, Korpisalo's numbers were bad last year specifically. He's never really been like a full-time starter. He's more of a journeyman. And it's worth noting that the last few years, he has played for some bad teams. Last year was with Ottawa. The year before with Columbus, where he spent most of his career. That was the second stint. And When his numbers are bad, typically his team is pretty bad. Like non-playoffs, bad, right? That's worth noting because the only times his numbers were, good to solid, Columbus was a decent team. The only times his goals per game was under 3 was when he played for some good teams in Columbus, and one with LA that was a pretty decent team where he had a 2-1-3, only played 11 games for them in half the season. But it's worth noting that because the Bruins have one of the best defensive cores in the league now, and they're big and they're bruising, and they are going to be one of the most solid teams at the back end of any team in the league. Now, I did see from Spit and Chicklets, they put out there how gritty and grimy this D-core is going to be to play against. It's going to be really tough to play against because they got all these big bodies. And that's true. Charlie McAvoy is a pretty big kid himself, is the smallest defenseman on the team in terms of height and weight. You got McAvoy, you got Zadorov and Peak and Hampus Lindholm and Brandon Carlo and all these guys, but I'm like, half of them don't hit. Like Hampus Lindholm doesn't hit. Brandon Carlo, I get mad at him because I think he's a really good technical defenseman, but he doesn't hit. Mason Lowry, love Mason Lowry. It's not a checker. And that's part of this. Peak and Zadorov will throw that frame around big time. McAvoy will play with some reckless abandon, even though he's their best defenseman. But half these guys don't hit. So I think they're a solid defensive group, but I feel a lot more confident with a Jeremy Swayman back there than a Jonas Korpisalo. And maybe both of them over Brandon Bussey. But yeah, you're in a heck of a situation where you're coming in where the Florida Panthers are going to unveil the Stanley Cup champions banner and you're going to have Jonas Korpisalo in goal. That's why, like the Patriots situation with Drake Maye, that's why these Bruins teammates have to be like, dude, can you just get this done and let's play some hockey? Like, we got a good team here that's significantly worse because you're not here. And we all would be flattered with 8x8 if we had your career resume and you're trying to push it to 9 or 10. Give me a break. Because I'll bet if you got an honest poll of all these Bruins players, they would say, yeah, of course, we want our guy to go for more money, but this is ridiculous. 8x8 is pretty fair for our one-time all-star goalie who has never played a full season. The one who couldn't separate himself from Linus Ullmark, who, again, is a good goalie. But that's what we're looking at here. This guy was the backup to a Vezina winner 2 years ago. And he really got the shine in the playoffs, got more time in the playoffs because Ullmark was not a good playoff goalie. And Swayman showed that he was through a series and 2 series. They lost one of them. But I did think that was pretty arrogant with that, what he was talking about on this Face-Off NHL, which I'll watch tonight. Of, one of the big things they told me was I couldn't perform in the playoffs. Check. So now I'm going to go ask for $10 million? What the fuck? Yeah, like you did. You had a good playoff, but there was a reason why you weren't playing in the playoffs before. There was a reason because Ullmark was the better goalie. So it's not the brag you think it is, and it's not the leverage that you think it is. And that's why I'm kind of like good on the Bruins for not caving in for like $9 million. I just think that's ridiculous. I think 8 or 8.5 AAV is fair to probably a little bit more than fair. And at that point, I think the Bruins fans are like, now it's in your court. Because Bruins fans, they know their hockey, man. They're not stupid. They know what the market is. They know what the cap is like. They know what these guys are worth. And that's about what he's worth. And that should be a good deal for him. And I think a lot of goalies in his situation would be like, I wish I was in a position to reset the market, but this is a really good deal for me and what I'm going to be able to do to play for one of the top teams in the league, and certainly should be for the very near future. And I'm going to make $8 million a year, which is better than most goalies in the league right now. That put me in the top 5 of goalies right now, 8.5. And that's where I see myself being. This is the time I could have done it. Bummer. I wish I could have had it a year or two from now when the cap goes up. But you didn't do that. You took them to arbitration last year, and the Bruins gave you a 1-year deal. They probably should have given you 2, but that's where we're at. And again, for the 15,000th time in the last week on this show, 8x8 is fair enough. And now I'm just wondering, his teammates and the fans, they've got to be thinking, get on the fucking ice. Enough of this shit. We were exhausted by the Kyrie stuff a couple years ago. We don't need that again with the Bruins. And we don't need to hear just me on this show, because Pete Souza is going to be joining the show in a couple minutes. Oh my God, do we have things to talk about with Pete Souza? Well, that's because I always do. That's coming up on the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. Pete Souza.
You mentioned you're talking about Full House and your dad.
I told that, yeah.
Do you know? Now you mentioned Candace Cameron.
Yeah. I have to type some things in. I'm listening though.
Married to one of the Bure boys. And
Valerie. Yeah.
Now I was awestruck by Chelsea Cameron, who was Kirk Cameron's wife, who when I was younger, she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen at the time. She was on Growing Pains, a short run. I think that's where her and Kirk Cameron met, if I'm not mistaken. And then she turned up on Seinfeld as one of Jerry's girlfriends.
Classic.
Yeah, in late 90s. And she was still throwing 100 miles an hour. And I don't know what her deal is now. I know her and Kirk are very, very driven by their faith.
Very much so, yeah.
And it's all good, but yeah, she was like,
if you told them we were Baylor people, they'd come on the show. They're like, we're actually more Liberty.
But yeah, I was a big fan.
Speaking of throwing 100 miles an hour, golly, I was on the Oasis website, and now it's making me do Ticketmaster, so I got to create an account.
The only reason that's a decent concert to go to is there could be a fight
because
on
they're
the
greatest band ever.
Because there could be a fight on stage.
Okay.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I guess it would, Pete.
Are
I've
questions
been waiting
for
for
you?
this my whole life, but yeah.
Are they a good live band?
I mean, I don't know about now, but at their peak, they were awesome.
Okay.
Like, awesome. You go back and watch some of those from like the late 90s, even into the 2000s. Like, yeah, they rock.
When's the last time they were on tour?
09. They've
Wow.
both been on tour in their solo acts, but they broke up in 09.
And so they have not been on tour together since they broke up.
Correct.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It's kind of how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It reminds me of, Van Halen got back together. That was always short-lived, though.
Yeah, short-lived. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the knockouts, I found out today there's this guy. He's the producer of the Friday the 13th remake, and as well as the 2010s live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. All right, bastions of cinema. Okay, this guy, he produced those. He works with the great Michael Bay, one of the great artists of all time. And that guy I just described to you, has one in the oven with Alex Daddario.
Who's Alex? Who's that?
Oh, Jesus. Pete.
Hold on. Alex
Daddario.
See if I can get it close enough. I did. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, look up Alex Daddario, True Detective.
And Andrew Form is her spouse.
Yes.
Right? Oh, I remember her from True Detective.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. One
That
of the
show-
best scenes in history. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, she's beautiful for sure.
Yeah.
That True Detective show with McConaughey and Woody, that's worth a rewatch, actually, because it was 10 years ago.
Just that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Now it's telling me I already have an account.
Season 2, Bad Guy Vince Vaughn was actually pretty good, too.
Really? I've heard everyone say the opposite.
I like Vince Vaughn a lot, and I don't care that in most every role he's still Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of know that. Did you ever see the Psycho remake that he did?
Oh yeah, I did. I saw it in the theater, dude.
Really? Because that was like
I was
90s, right?
Yeah. It wasn't very good.
No, it wasn't.
But the
It
one
was not. I can attest to that.
I'll tell you what was a really underrated movie. Let me see, the one with him and Travolta. Have you seen that? Where he's
Vince
like an
Vaughn
evil
and
stepdad?
Travolta? No.
Oh my God. It is Domestic Disturbance, 2001.
Oh my God.
yeah, it's a really
so
good.
this is like Travolta, like the same year he did like Battlefield Earth.
Yeah. He's still kind of running hot from like Pulp Fiction and Get Shorty.
Yeah, he
in those
needed a
movies.
bit of a comeback.
Yeah, a bit.
No,
Dude.
I'm saying in this 2001, he needed a big comeback before Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. But
what did he do in the 80s?
Well, he did a couple bad movies, like the one around aerobics. He was still white hot.
Oh,
coming
that
into
Jamie
the
Lee
80s.
Curtis one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hold on. This would be actually fun. Let's do a little Travolta IMDb.
Let's
right?
do it, man.
I'm a huge Travolta guy. Because he was, that was kind of my deal. Let's see here. Well, look at his discography. I don't want his music.
All right. It looks like I might be in the queue.
For what? Oh, for what? For these?
Yeah. Because I didn't get the pre-sale. Oh my God, dude. Some kid who I used to work with who just magically started liking Oasis after I stopped working there. He got in and was like, I've been waiting my whole life for this. I'm like, bullshit. You've been waiting 2 years for this. I've been waiting my whole life for this. Fuck.
Okay. So he does Urban Cowboy in 1980.
Yep.
Which by all accounts is a very good film. Staying Alive. That was terrible. I think Stallone was involved with that. If I'm not,
Do you have like so
the
Zach,
film was directed by Sylvester
hell
Stallone.
yeah. So Zach, Mike, and I love shitty movies.
Yeah, so do I.
Okay, like what are some of the ones that like
Rhinestone is one that I think of right away with Dolly Parton and Sylvester Stallone. That was like a
God,
bomb.
that sounds great.
And it was really good.
Dolly was so hot back in the day.
Yeah,
I mean,
she
she
really
still looks
was.
great for herself, for her age.
Yeah.
But she admits that, like, the plastic surgery didn't go too well. But
Look,
golly.
you want to talk about a comeback? Last year at Thanksgiving, that's all anybody wanted to talk about was Dolly Parton and the
I'm sure
Cowboys.
you were way into that.
I appreciated it. I like to see Dolly's another one. Like she's a legend. So like, I'll take Dolly Parton.
Dolly is one of the perfect celebrities. Like a great American.
Yeah.
What controversy has she ever had?
Nothing. If you remember,
like the plastic surgery,
and she low keyed it when all the stuff was going on with like COVID. Like she helped out. She put up like a couple $1,000,000, I think, for
fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
She's been married to the same guy for almost 60 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She married him when she was 20. He's just a guy. She was way early on the like the gay rights train, the LGBT rights train, which for a country singer from Tennessee,
no
like real rural Tennessee, I've been to her hometown. Like that took a lot of balls, you know what I mean?
100%.
And she's always handled it with the attitude of like, yeah, that's what I believe in.
Yeah.
Like
Miley Cyrus's godmother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did a cover of Jolene, which was good, but
Miley, I like
Dolly,
Miley.
But
Miley's pretty awesome.
Incredible, man. Yeah.
She almost made the transition. Like I guess you could say she did.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, when I was
takes on new meaning in 2024.
Well, no, in 2008 or 2009, like if Hannah Montana was like all the rage.
I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah, all the rage.
Yes.
So and she still was able to.
She grew up with her fans.
Yeah, she did, and she was able to become
not an easy thing to do.
And still become a pop star.
Yeah,
and become Miley Cyrus and not just be pigeonholed as Hannah Montana. Like Hillary Duff never got out of that.
Right.
I mean,
Amanda Bynes never got out of that.
No, Amanda
Bynes. It's a really tough thing to do.
Amanda Bynes is a really scary deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch that documentary about the Nickelodeon stuff?
Yep.
So
I had dinner with the guy the other night that worked on those shows.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What I found fascinating, one of the fascinating parts about it was they showed like those old, like early stand-up bits that Amanda Bynes did.
Yeah.
And like she was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, she was like 8 years old. And they talk about it in there. She's like, her timing was like perfect.
Yeah.
Comedic timing. She's 8, 9 years old.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of silly humor, but like she nails it. I'm like, this, of course she was going to be a huge star.
Yeah.
And that's like looking back at those clips, I was just like, that's really sad because she should be a megastar.
Yeah.
And she's not. And like, that's kind of what the industry does see a little bit. You know
yeah.
So
totally.
only some people can overcome it. Like think about all those people that were featured in that documentary. Like they all should have been poised for greatness. All that and Drake and Josh and the Amanda Show. Like, you know what I mean? Like
poised for greatness might be a little steep.
70% of them should be still acting.
Yeah, I mean, sure, if you can stay out of your own way.
That's what's tough. That's what's tough. These child stars, man.
And I mean, I wouldn't have had a chance,
And what I like about Miley Cyrus too, to that end of growing up with her fans, is she's not singing and writing songs now as if she's some 16-year-old girl who just went through a breakup.
Is that a shot at Taylor Swift?
Yes, it is. It is.
I don't understand.
I'm just kind of sick of it. I don't think she's a bad person.
Of course not.
I don't think that, but I'm just like, okay, we get it. You were in high school once. And I think that's the problem is she wasn't like in a real high school setting.
Well, it was only a matter of time before assholes like you would turn on Travis and
why would I
Taylor.
turn on Travis?
I mean, you will.
I never really
Don't worry. You'll come in here one day like a hot shot and take a bunch of shots of Travis Kelce.
Why?
McShay already did it.
I mean, Gronk was always better. Gronk is always a better player.
Aaron Hernandez would have been better than all.
He
of
might
them.
have.
He probably would have been.
I don't know. Gronk. I mean, Hernandez wouldn't have got hurt as much, probably, most likely. So maybe there is that where like his numbers are better than Gronk's, and Gronk is the biggest matchup nightmare in the history of the league.
Yeah, and Bill Simmons used to say it great. Like they would take him out of the garage like at the right time, like during seasons. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like he would kind of stay in the garage for a while, and then the next thing you know, he'd be running wild, knocking guys over.
Especially that, like you see that in those first 2 seasons that he played with Hernandez, 2010 and 2011, like Gronk would just became like this red zone menace.
Yeah.
And they would throw fades to him and they would get the mismatch on him in the red zone. So he was a touchdown machine. In 2011, he set the record for tight end touchdowns. And like a bunch of that was because of Aaron Hernandez, because he was also a matchup nightmare in a different way. So you could use him all over the field.
There's the whole Patriots
for scoring time.
I mean, there's a whole X's and O's to that, like that whole situation, like that.
Yes, it didn't just come up in like the last minute before they drafted Aaron Hernandez.
No, but
like
there's
the show.
but that was quite the blow to the franchise and to the organization, like as far as their ability to score points and their offense was concerned.
If you look at definitely the numbers, but also I remember living through this. The difference between 2012 and 2013 was a dramatic drop off in their offense. And it probably shouldn't have been that big, but it was a guy who all of a sudden in June is no longer part of the team.
What happened? How did they do in 2013?
Went to the AFC Championship.
They lost to the Ravens.
Broncos. Lost to the Ravens the year before.
Okay.
But yeah, they were always in the AFC Championship game. Every year, man. 2010 to 18. But I remember like early in the season, they beat a Jets team that was like a Geno Smith Jets team.
Yeah.
And it was like 13-10. Like they couldn't score. And Hernandez was a big reason why. But yeah, they were. I kind of had a rant against Cowherd a few months ago on this show. I'm sure Colin heard it and has reacted to it.
Tell me about it.
But Cowherd just had this lazy take that the Patriots never had an offensive culture.
I remember you said this, yeah.
Which is just, again, like just some bullshit term so you throw it out there so you don't have to back it up. Because what does an offensive culture mean? Well, they were never innovative. They were never fun. And it's like, that's what Kansas City is. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy even talking about? He's like, outside of Randy, they never cared about offense. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Belichick's obviously a defensive coach, but one of the big reasons I used was they were super innovative right after Randy left. That's Bill O'Brien, and that's the two pass catching tight end set.
Yeah.
You'll remember this, Pete. Teams were not doing that.
No.
Some teams didn't have a single pass catching tight end, like a real pass catching tight end. They had two that they could line up anywhere on the field. Anywhere. They were handing off to Hernandez in the backfield. They would split either one of them out wide. Didn't matter where they were on the field. Like they became you had to play 5-6 defensive backs.
And look, one of them was a murderer. Like that.
Yeah,
that's
people forget
unbelievable.
that.
That's unbelievable.
One of them.
You want to talk
people.
about innovation? How many people do you think Aaron Hernandez
And by the
killed?
way, before I get to that question, that is a team that is willing to hire a murderer for the sake of innovation. And I've got Colin Cowherd telling me they're not innovative enough offensively. Bullshit, Colin.
That's true. Yeah. They were doing whatever
they would go to
could.
any length.
They were doing whatever they could to innovate. How many people, I've been meaning to ask you this because you mentioned it kind of as a throwaway line. How many people do you think he actually killed?
I think it's somewhere in the range of like 4 or 5.
Really?
But that's I know that doesn't hold up in a court of law.
Yeah.
But he's been around there. And I can't remember them at the time or now. I remember them from the time of like, whoa, Hernandez was also really involved with this guy who was blamed for this murder and wasn't very cooperative. And like this guy was linked to Odin Lloyd, who was the one he was convicted for. So like there was a couple of stories and there was one in Gainesville.
Yeah.
That he absolutely could have done. Like just people that are associated with him were part of this. And like, and the way he went through, it was a little sloppy with the Odin Lloyd thing. That's how he got caught, but he did a rental car. He went out to a place where, no one would find him. And like, he had
a little
his fiance as a part of it. Huh?
A little sloppy.
He's a little sloppy.
I mean, the Odin Lloyd case was like open and shut. He was arrested like 4 days after.
But enough that it wasn't like, oh my God, this guy just snapped and shot somebody.
Okay, yeah.
He premeditated this,
yes,
which leads me to believe also that like, it wasn't his first time.
Okay.
And plus, I mean, he tried to kill one of his friends.
Yeah.
Which is the first scene in the show.
Yeah.
That's real.
Which, by the way, we haven't gotten back to that. So
haven't gotten back to it yet.
No, yeah. That was one of his boys.
That'll be episode like 12.
Who was that guy?
It's just one of his boys.
Okay.
Connecticut and the Patriots. And
at first, I thought it was Drake Maye because he was calling him Gerard.
Imagine what that would have been if the current coach of the Patriots says one fucking eye because Aaron Hernandez shot it out.
Because he's calling him Gerard.
So, yeah, I think there's more than one. I think there are multiple skeletons in that closet. What?
That's terrible.
I mean, I'm
now
sorry,
I'm picturing
man.
their head coach with one eye.
That would be terrible. That would be terrible.
We gotta stop talking. I gotta stop talking about Aaron Hernandez. I mean, I have really, if people that listen are burned out by now for sure.
Dude, I can't believe I didn't keep my jersey.
You had it?
I had an Aaron Hernandez jersey.
No, you didn't.
Yeah. Dude, he was like my favorite player on the team outside of Brady. I loved him as a player. So yeah, I bought one of those good fake ones off China. It was like $25. And at the
like
time,
the swingmans, we used to call them in basketball.
Yeah,
the swingmans were like just as close as you can get.
And at the time for the NFL, it's a little bit different now. It's a little bit worse quality, but this one I got looked exactly like when you get at the pro shop, stitched. Big deal.
Did you turn it back in?
So I was going to. They did. That was
that
the first time they did one of those, like turn in your jersey and get another one for equal or lesser value. And then I sold it on eBay because I was going to make more money. I made like $150 off it.
How much did you sell it for?
Like $150.
Okay.
So 130 off it.
Okay.
And then I was like, you know what? I should have just kept that as like here's a relic I have.
Yeah.
And Aaron, it would be like having an OJ jersey. From
I have a football at my house, my mom's house. That's OJ Simpson, like football. He didn't sign it, but his name is etched on it. You know.
I had a Tony Romo one of those for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know where these even come from.
But that's funny. Did you keep that?
Yeah, I still have it. Yeah.
Dude, that needs to be on the set. That's hilarious.
I don't know.
Just a relic of an old time, man.
It really is amazing. I just finished up Al Michaels' I'm almost done his book, and he talks about the OJ, that whole situation where like that morning that OJ allegedly killed Nicole Brown Simpson. Al was looking for a golf game, and so
him that morning.
Yeah, so he called OJ, and he called OJ.
Sorry, the morning of it or the morning after it?
The morning of.
Okay.
And so Al was calling him because he knew OJ was going to be in town because he was leaving for Chicago that night, and so he called him, and he couldn't get in touch with him. And Al was like, "Luckily, I didn't leave a message on his answering machine because anything that had to do with his whereabouts that day would have been played in court." And you said, no, no. Al is a little like smug. He's just like, no, thank you. Al walked off.
Yeah.
He walked off
the Pete thing, with the Pete Rose thing.
He walked off the set of Basketball because he found out that Bob Costas was getting, I think, $50,000 and Al was only getting $5 or 15, something like that.
That is ridiculous if it's a huge.
So and Al was like, no, I'm like,
good for him, man.
Yeah, he walked off, and they were like, "We'll make it right. We'll make it right." And so he stayed. And
you think you're excited? Feel these nipples.
Yeah. And Al talked about that too. It's a great those stories. Like him and Bob Costas. Costas said, "Well, they were doing the movie Basketball," and Costas was like, "Well, at least it's a good payday," because they knew it was crazy. And Al was like, "What do you mean?" And Costas was like, "Oh boy." And Al was like, finally, we agreed to flip a coin, and whoever lost was going to have to say how much they got paid. And Costas lost. He said $50,000, and he said, and I was like apoplectic. He said, I almost hit the roof. We were there on set. He said that he had gotten screwed over for Jerry Maguire, that they got paid nothing, and the movie made $260 million. And he was like, Deerdorf and Gifford just wanted to be a part of it, so they like knew we were going to get hosed.
Yeah.
And so, but he said, I was so upset about this that I was going to leave. But they said they would make it right. He said, eventually I got $50,000.
Well, Pete, I have one more update before we get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the queue.
Yeah.
I am in the queue, and only 30,076 people are ahead of me.
So what does that mean?
It means I'm 30,000th in line.
To get tickets at
Soldier Field has more than 30,000 though.
So can you get a ticket? Is this for Soldier Field?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you'll get one.
I hope so, man.
It's the lottery to go see like
the best British band since the Beatles. Yeah.
All right. Zach wants us.
Dude, this is huge. This is huge for me. And I will say one more thing before we go. I criticized some of the Taylor Swift people. and I still don't understand why some of them just like burst into hysterical tears when they're at a concert and Taylor Swift plays a Taylor Swift song.
I don't understand. I don't understand why you care.
But I this is the thing. I don't really care. But I just
who
don't
made
get
you
it.
the fun police?
And anyway, I say that to say, Pete, that I probably will get emotional at one of these shows.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift didn't break up for 15 years. Okay. Taylor Swift didn't break up a band with her brother in it.
I will be bummed for Travis Kelce if he is kind of like. By the way, he had 7 catches last week. He's
finished.
Yeah, I know,
done.
right? Yeah, but he has not been as effective as in recent years.
Wants to wrap it up so bad.
I can't see Zach's hand.
Pete Souza, 1:00 on the Pete Souza Show YouTube. We'll be back on Monday. I'll be on Pete Souza's show too, I think.
Hell yeah.
I'll be back on Monday, high noon Eastern time, right here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It's the Cam Show. We'll see you then.